Welcome to Love, Light, Inspire, the podcast, especially for women like you by inspirational women. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Wow, Love, Light, Inspire, the podcast. It is the go-to podcast. It introduces you to amazing women from all around the world. They're industry leaders, experts in their field, and they really are inspirational women. And they're going to talk to you on all sorts of different things. Now, I must be the luckiest person on this earth because I actually get to talk to them and ask some questions from your point of view, or I hope I am anyhow. And these women absolutely, they send tingles down my spine as to what they've achieved in their life. They're just incredible women. And they've done such a variety of different things. So how lucky am I to get to speak to them on your behalf, so then you get to hear them. Now, I'm Lorraine Roberts. I'm your host, and I'm a productivity strategist. I help business women and all different women find direction in their life, lose procrastination, and move on to living an amazing life. So if you need help getting motivated because you don't know what to do, then I'm your girl. You can find me on Facebook. You can, the Facebook group, Women of Love, Light and Inspiration Community. Come and join us. We post stuff every day on there. It's really great stuff. And interact with us. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you love. Tell us what you want as well. Now, you can also get in touch with me on my own personal page. You can find the website. And I'm on Instagram as well. So come and get in touch with me. Now, today we're speaking with Dr. Dawn. Now, she is an author. She's changed her life, gone on. She's won numerous awards with children's literature. That's her passion. She's a teacher. She loves looking after little kids. I think she's also a grandma. So you'll also get to see, who she is and why she does what she does. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, I'm sure you're going to love the rest of them because they're all absolutely fantastic. Or I think so anyhow. I'm really inspired by who I get to talk to. So we release a new one every Friday. So come subscribe, leave us a review. We would really love some reviews. Share it with your friends. So the more people who can hear about us, the more we get out around the world and the more that Google will promote us, which is really good. And you can find us on Facebook, as I said, Instagram, or the website lovelightInspire.com. And here is Dr. Dawn. Good morning, Dawn. Thank you for, it's not good morning where you are. And I've got to stop saying good morning because it's always
That's okay.
In the morning.
It's morning for you. It's evening for me.
Yeah, exactly. So welcome to Wow, Love, Light, Inspire, the podcast. So good to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to the Australian audience.
Yeah, no, this is global audience because I go to everywhere around the world, which is really, look, our world is becoming such a shrunken place.
Yes.
That, I'm always talking to people from overseas somewhere, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's really connected us worldwide. It's been really, well, that was one good thing that came from the pandemic.
Yes, absolutely.
That we connected more virtually with everyone.
Absolutely. Now, you, I think, like a lot of women, and certainly what happened to me around 50, you had a major life-changing event. Do you want to tell us what got you into being a children's author?
Well, it happened a little bit before I was 50. I was married for 30 years and we got a divorce. There was some unhappiness. And so I had actually written this book. Well, I teach students with severe cognitive delays. And when I was getting my credential, one of my assignments was to create a math book and a math game. So my original book actually had my students in it. And we did a little play and we went around to the elementary schools. And then I would go back the next day and discuss their behaviors and their disabilities with the children. I got a grant from a local college to do that. So when I got divorced, I wanted to publish the book. And my only thought at that time was just to publish this book. So I just found a self-publisher and a company and I published it. and they did the illustrations. And I immediately won first place in the Evie Awards, which is out of Colorado. It's a publishing award. And I was starting to get interviews, and people were asking me, well, what are you going to do next? And I had not thought about doing anything more than just this. I hadn't thought about book signings or further books or anything, you know. So I love to travel. And when I published it, I named it after my grandmother, Vernita. She was a world traveler. She actually went door to door and got memberships for her, and her father founded the United Methodist Federal Credit Union. And so she managed it her whole life. And so she was an astute businesswoman, and she was the matriarch of her family.
Yes.
And so she got us into traveling, my mom, and then my mom got me into it. And my parents had a sailboat for 25 years. So,
Oh, wow.
We decided that the books were going to be about the travels, and everyone in the first book, they're the children. This is my dad.
Yeah. Yep.
He was deceased at that time, and my nephew. And so everyone in the first book, this is my daughter, Ashley. But everyone in the first book were the children in our family, because I thought, well, they're little, they're not going to care. But what I found out was that adults like being in the book. So we kept the same format. It's the 12 months of the year, and each month is a new friend, and they have 7 activities. And it goes from pre-K to first grade all the way up to 6th and 7th grade. So your child can actually grow with the series.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it really, your whole passion and your whole life just turned on something that just dropped in from the universe and went, you can do this.
Yeah, I was.
And based on inspiring women in your own family, which is quite incredible on its own, isn't it?
Yeah, everybody in the book is like, this one is a camping trip we go on every year. It's up at the beach in the middle of California. And it's pre-K to first grade. And during the pandemic, that's one thing I did is when I first started, I had a goal. I was going to publish 1 book a year. And because I teach full time. So it was, you know, just something I was doing. And I got kind of behind. So during the pandemic, I actually published 5 books. And so this was one of them. I do a lot of traveling, so I have a lot of things I can write about. But I needed some more pre-K. And so this one this is my son and my granddaughter. They're flying a kite. It looks like a pizza, but it actually is the kite.
Yes, yes.
But and then they're fishing and camping and s'mores making and just adventure. And so we just we travel a lot. We went to the Grand Canyon, we went to Zion during the pandemic. We still kept going out as a family. And so I have lots of books I can write about. And so
yes,
I'm excited.
Yeah. So yeah, without all the, if your husband had never left, you would never have been down this at all. Isn't it amazing how life events can absolutely take us down track.
I would not have started it. And I also started my Ph.D. during that time. And so I have a Ph.D. in curriculum instruction, and I completed that. And now I teach at the local university on top of teaching in the classroom. And so it's given me like a whole new, you know, my children are in their mid 30s to almost 40, and I have 6 grandchildren. Yes. And so I'm able to just do whatever I want, and they're busy taking care of their own lives, and we just go and camping and have fun together. And so we get to have a lot of fun. So
yeah. What do you think it actually took within you to actually do, you know, to go and get a PhD at what, you were 50 something when you got your PhD?
I
mean, that's a massive achievement.
I started, my little brother is an astronomer, and I don't have the book, but we wrote a book together on astronomy. And he actually was the one who got me going on the PhD. I had never thought that I would have a PhD. I'm the first person in my family to have one. And, you know, when I was younger, when I was 19, I got married at 19 and had 3 little kids. And I thought that my mom was a kindergarten teacher. And I thought, wow, maybe I'll be a preschool teacher. You know, I didn't really think about what it is once I started having children. And when I started going to college, I worked in my mom's classroom and learned how to be a teacher. And then just it kind of went from there. But I never thought I would have a PhD. I never thought I'd be a professor. Your life changes. You
Yes.
have new things that you're doing, and you just have to do the new things that come up. At one point, I was having a really hard time, and I went to the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and that's worldwide. And if anybody who's writing children's books, you need to join that organization. There's a lot of support, and join organizations, be around the professional writers. But I heard a speech from a man his name is Kwame Alexander, and it's called Yes. And he just said yes to whatever opportunities that came up, because one opportunity leads to another opportunity, leads to another one. And so, I'm teaching full time, which is, pretty time consuming, and it takes up a lot of my energy. But I also am judging 3 children's literacy contests. And I also read romance books for Indie Tale magazine. And I just finished my first one. I have a couple more to read for the summer, and I judge those. And I write book reviews for Story Monster magazine. I do a lot of events with them. And I also part of the United States Board on Books for Young Children. I'm the ambassador for California. And I also I was on the committee to pick the books for and about disabilities, but now I'm going to be on a new committee. So my writing one book just to have something new to think about and something positive to do has turned into this almost a second career that I'm doing. And I did not imagine that would be happening, but it happened because I said yes to things. And that's what you have to do. It was really scary at first because, I'd been married and I was teaching at the time, but to get out there and do your first book and start doing interviews, I would have the characters in my books do the interviews with me because I didn't want to do them by myself, and the first book signing I did at a library, I was sitting there, my mom was sitting with me, and there was a TV camera that was going down interviewing all of the authors. And I saw the camera and I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I'm like, I'm going to hide in the bathroom or something. I did not want to get on the camera. And the ladies next to me, they said, if you're going to be an author, you're going to get used to that. So I stayed and I did it. And I don't know if it was ever publicized, but it's scary at first to get out there because you're putting yourself out there. And you're going to be criticized and, and all sorts of things. And so it's hard. And my books are about my actual life. So it makes it easy to write them, but I'm also putting myself out there.
Yes.
And that is hard. That's the one thing I did during the pandemic too, is because the book signings all, stopped. Yes. I did a lot more things online. I had a goal that I was going to do 100 podcasts, interviews. I'm up to 87, I think now. And so I'm getting kind of more used to that. And I do a lot more, I write magazine review articles, and I actually was just featured on the Electric Brains magazine. I was the cover.
Wow.
And they did a feature. And this came out June for my birthday.
Wow.
So, I never thought this would happen.
No.
But I just said yes, and they accepted me. And another thing that I did is I started entering film festivals with my books and my trailers. And I didn't have a screenplay at the time, but I saw, because I have disabilities in my books, I have some of my students in my books. And it was called Conquering Disabilities with Film. And I saw it on Facebook, and I wrote her and I said, I don't have screenplays, but I have books. Can I enter them? And she said, yeah. So I entered them there. And then it's a huge festival. There were 15 different festivals within this one festival.
Wow.
And so they did an article. I mentioned on the cover as one of the features. This was last year. And then they did a wonderful article about my book signings and my books and my illustrations. This is actually the little boy. He has autism.
Yep.
And he was in my class, and this is his dad. And so they're at the Volcanic National Park. But that's one of the books that actually won And this is Story Monster, the magazine that I work with. And this is actually Kwame Alexander. I was on his launch team. And so this is what I was doing there. But I've won my books. I have won 70 international awards. And this is one of the Film Festival Awards.
Wow, Dawn, for those who are listening, Dawn's just holding up some medals. Yeah,
And
Dawn, that is amazing story. Just, it is about saying yes and going
yes.
with it. Going with it.
Yes.
And
it's
look,
hard.
It's really hard. Yes.
Hard.
I try and do a live every day now. And I tell you what, and I've been doing it for about the last 2 or 3 weeks. And the first week was horrendous. The second week was okay. This last week was, oh, well, here we go. Off we go again. And it does get easier. So the more you put yourself out there, the easier it is. Because if you want to do something amazing in this life, you have to be seen. And
yes.
it's not what it's not what I certainly ever wanted. And I think you were the same. You want to be seen. I want to be able to do this stuff, but I don't want to be seen. But we can't be leaders in our field if we're not seen.
Yes. But it is hard. It's hard. And we are our worst critics. We have to remember that normally we are our worst critics, and we will take ourselves apart and all of the things we didn't do right. You just gotta, if it doesn't work right the first time, try it again,
Yes.
And so, are the dogs loud?
Yeah. That's okay. I'm sure Nis can cut that out.
Somebody's walking down the street. It's like, okay, they're gone. Bye. It's hot. This is something else I did too. I wanted to try my hand at different writing. So this woman, she was from Ireland, and this is her. I think she just published her 4th one in the series of the pandemic and the different things that people did to get through the pandemic.
So you wrote a chapter in the 100 Empowered Voices.
It's called an anthology, and it was one of the first ones that I did. And then here's my chapter.
So it's a multi-authored book, and everyone has a chapter.
100 ladies in this book.
Wow.
And she's from Ireland. So now I'm an internationally published author. So, and then I did this one. It's called How I Made It Over. And you pick something that was kind of difficult in your life, and you just write about it. And how did you get past it? And I wrote about my dating life because when I was 16, I went on a date and we ended up in a car accident, and I ended up spending my junior year in a body cast. And they didn't think that I would be able to have children. I did. I have 3 children. And so it was about that. And then when I got divorced.
That's an adult book for women.
Yes, this is another anthology.
Right.
Yeah, so I kind of been kind of branching out there in my writing opportunities. Yes. And that's where this one came from. When I first started dating, I met a man and we really liked each other, but he was in a ministry, and the woman in the ministry didn't want us dating. So she came over to my house and she actually threatened me. And then she spent years terrorizing me in my home, and she tried to get me fired from my job and all sorts of stuff. So I wrote a book about it. That's kind of how I got through it. And it's about the king and the queen, and then he meets a dragon because she called me a dragon slayer. So he meets a dragon who's telling him that she's going.
The book is called Dragon's Breath, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's a children's book.
Yes, it's a book about being kind and not hurting people when you're jealous.
Yes.
And so she's telling the villagers how she's going to help them, but then she meets the queen and gets really upset, and then she starts blowing black smoke all over the crops and killing the crops, and then the king catches her and banishes her from the kingdom. So that's kind of how I got through that episode that happened in my life.
Yes,
yes. So
absolutely. Okay, she's recording again.
So that's just when I really learned to get over the bad things that happened in your life. You have to just find some really good things and be brave.
Yeah, I think being brave is a huge thing, and just stepping outside your comfort zone and
Yes.
just going with things. And you've certainly done that. I mean, fancy achieving a PhD, honestly. That's fantastic. You know?
It took 7 years. So and about halfway through, I thought, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. This is too much. But I had to keep going. I got to the point where I couldn't go backwards. So I finally did it. And so now I'm teaching at the university. I teach special ed classes. Well, the teachers who are going to teach special ed. And so when I retire from my classroom, that is what I hope to do, is to go into the university full time.
Now, your mother is an inspirational woman on her own, isn't she? She's an incredible woman. So you come from a generation of really incredible women who've all achieved.
really intelligent and strong women. Yes, in fact, my mom, she has always wanted to publish. So that's something she also did during the pandemic, is she published how she got through the pandemic at the local library. They were going to publish a book. We live in a small mountain community. And so she did that. And it was really hard for her to do it. We were at the film festival when she was writing it down, and I helped her. And so we went to Wyoming last year for a road trip, because I had a family that I grew up with who wanted to know when I was going to write a book on their town in Wyoming. Yes. And so we went on a road trip there, and I got all the information and researched it, and we just finished it. Hopefully it'll be out in a couple of weeks. And so she co-authored it with me.
And she's in her 80s, isn't she?
Well, she won't exactly tell me how old she is now, but yeah, she'll be 80. She'll be 80 in September, but she doesn't like me to tell people that. But I think that it's amazing because, you know, during the pandemic, we walked every single day, and, you know, she was used to traveling. She was traveled all over the world several times. And so it was really hard for her. But we walked every day and tried to stay in shape. And she just got back from Alaska. So she finally got to go on a cruise. So it's been kind of rough on her because she's used to really being out and about. So everybody had to deal with all of it in a different way. But she doesn't realize that how strong she is in comparison to some other people, maybe her age. And so I try to remind her all the time, but, you know, I tell other people, I say, well, take your mom here, because at our age, we're starting to spend more time with our parents and helping them. You know, I said, well, take your mom here, do this. And, well, my mom's 79. I'm like, well, my mom's 80 and we just went kayaking, you know, so, you know, she's still out there. My brother bought a sailboat in the last year, and my parents had a sailboat for 20 some years. So now my brother does, and she goes down there and she goes sailing with him. And, you know, she doesn't realize how full her life is.
Yes.
But you have to keep going. You have to keep going.
So her mother was the same. And her mother must have been taught by her mother as well. So it really is a generational strength.
Yes.
You know, mental strength.
Ugh. Yeah, my grandmother, she was 90. I'm going to say she was 93 when she passed away, but she worked up until probably her 90s, because she managed the credit union, and she danced once a week. And up until like the last couple of months, she was still dancing. You know, she really went down fighting. She didn't want to give up, but she was pretty tough. And so, you know, she taught us a lot, and how to be strong and how to be keep going. And so, yes, we have a lot of really strong women. My daughters are, in fact, that's another anthology that I just did. It's called Prayers for My Daughter, or Love Letter for My Daughter. And it's coming out in July. And I wrote a chapter on that. Well, actually, it was just 500 words. It wasn't very long, but it was about my 3 children, my 3 daughters. And so that's another thing that I tried. I just try lots of different things now. Yes. You know, and that's what you have to do. You just have to go out there and try something new. And, you know, you don't have to be perfect at it. You don't have to be the best at it.
No. And I find, look, I'm personally finding that my wisdom goes across all sorts of different spans as well. It's not only in one area, it crosses everything.
Well, you and I had talked earlier, and you're telling me that you travel all over the world by yourself. And for me, that's amazing because I am not that brave. I will go in a shark cage. I will,
Yes,
you know, do all sorts of stuff, but I'm not really interested in traveling around the world by myself. But you do that. And so, you know, people need to know that, you know, women need to know, yes, you can do that.
Yes, I've just come back from 2 weeks in Bali on my own.
See, and you don't even go with a tour group or anything. You just go on your own.
Yep.
See?
Yep, absolutely.
And you love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you love it. See,
yeah.
A lot of women they think, well, I don't have anybody to go with, you know, and so they don't go places.
Yes. And I have, I went across to America, and I did America and Ireland. I did a bus tour, and I found a bus tour was actually harder on my own than traveling on my own, because, you know, we're in bus tours and things, you've got two people listening for instructions, where if one person misses it, or if they change their mind and say, oh no, look, we'll meet earlier, and I didn't hear that, I'm screwed. you
get left there.
You know, did we turn right or did we turn left when we were, you know, when we were exploring? You've got nobody to say, oh, I think it was right. Oh no, you know, and I go left, and I was always getting lost, and it was just really hard. Yeah, it was much harder on my own than traveling on my own, because if you travel on your own, it doesn't matter if you get lost.
You're going at your pace too.
Yes.
If you like a place, then you stay there longer, or if you don't like a place, you don't stay there. But we went, I'm going to show you, but I know no one can see it, but we went on a paddle boat trip up the Snake River, and that's one of my books. But I went with my mom and her husband, her second husband, who has passed away. So we were actually like the youngest people on the boat, and we did a lot of the bus tours, and that wore me out, getting on and off the bus and waiting in line. It was tiring. Yeah. So
yes, I agree with you. I must admit,
some people really like the bus tours, but I found it to be tiring.
Yeah, I agree with you. I find that when I travel, sometimes I need one day a week where I just don't do anything, you know, because I go out and explore the rest, and then I have a day off, and then and I can have time off to recuperate and also integrate what I've seen, rather than next, which is what bus tours are. Yeah.
Do you plan it all before you go, or do you go and then just as you're going along?
Both. Sometimes I do. Sometimes there's things that I want to do. You know, I think probably the biggest thing that I've ever done was I did the Trans-Siberian from St. Petersburg all the way through to Beijing, and I thought I was on a guided tour and I was the only person there, and there was no tour leader. Now that was challenging.
Oh my gosh.
That was really challenging. And now, if you had have told me what I was going to do before I left, I would never have done it. But to get off the other end and say, I did that, I survived it, I absolutely patted myself on the back and went, I don't know how I got through that. I really don't.
Oh.
You know, I had no clue. The train would just rock up to a station, and I didn't know whether it was going to be 5 minutes or 5 hours sitting there. And I couldn't understand the language, so I was too scared to get off.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, if I could see a little kiosk where they sold, you know, the 2-minute noodles where you added water to, because that was the only meal I had at the time. I'd run to the kiosk, buy what I wanted, and get back on the train, because I didn't know anything. I had a fight with a Russian lady because I couldn't climb up to the top bunk, so I slept on the floor, and she wasn't happy with that. And she's yelling.
Well, did she offer you the bottom bunk?
No, she was older than me. She was older than me. So it was like,
no. Oh my gosh. Oh, that would not be fun.
So yeah, that was the biggest challenge. Probably the biggest challenge of my life was that tour. And I had no clue. I had no clue what I was in for, you know.
Well, you did it though.
I did it. I did it. And you know what? I would do it again tomorrow. I would
But you
do
would
it
just,
again tomorrow.
you would go with a tour group or someone who understood the language?
No, not
No?
necessarily. No, because I know I can do it. I do it in summer. I did it in winter, so that was even harder. Yeah.
Doesn't it get really cold there?
Oh yeah, it's snow, and they had to stop the train and get the ice and snow off the tracks and off the wheels so they could continue
Oh my God.
along. And oh yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
yeah. It was the hardest thing that I've ever done, but so proud of myself.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so proud of myself.
You should write a book about your adventure.
I certainly, well, I wrote a book. I have written a book on my life, and I actually did that after I traveled, but I didn't actually write about my travels.
But you should, because there's women out there that they don't know they can do that.
No.
They don't know that they can just do things like that. So you should at least write like articles in travel magazines and things.
Yeah, I have written a few. Yes.
And there's traveling like podcasts. And so, you should talk to people. So like people, like if I wanted to go somewhere, I would listen to you and say, oh, wow, okay, I can do that. Maybe, I would think about it for a while, but, I certainly wouldn't do it on my own, but so kudos to you, that is for sure.
Yeah, no, we all have our own strengths, and we all have our own weaknesses as well that we need to work through.
Yeah.
And a lot of those weaknesses, it's all the same. It's all insecurity stuff too, which is the funny part.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Someday I'm going to come to Australia. It's on my list.
Oh, look, I would love to take this as a traveling podcast, actually. And I was thinking of going to America at one stage and actually doing podcasts on the road.
Oh.
And, the women I meet on the road and actually do interviews with them. I think that would be just amazing.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Yes, you should do that. Well, I mean, so when is your next trip? You just got back from one.
Yeah, I just got back. I don't know. The end of this year, I'm going to take a group of women to a retreat in Bali. So I'll take them back.
Okay.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it should be.
I haven't been there, but
yeah, no, it is beautiful. Yeah. Sit amongst the rice fields, and we'll do, special stuff. Yeah. And it'll be, working a little bit on your business and on yourself, as well as exploring and learning other bits and pieces as well. Yeah, and going to the water temples, and it should be beautiful.
That sounds fun. I know yesterday, some of the interviews I did was for a lady, she lived in Jamaica at the time. And I did some author interviews, and then I did a workshop with the high schoolers there on writing. And so she's since moved to Italy, and she's doing an author retreat in Italy. And so she asked a bunch of people if they wanted to go yesterday. And I'm like, that sounds really cool. Yeah. So we're going to go to Italy and Rome. So I'm going to try that next summer.
Yes.
So that will be my first time overseas like that, like to Europe and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. So the Queen is going to go visit Italy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just saying yes to opportunities like the one I'm doing now, the anthology I'm doing now, about our daughters. We had a meeting on Saturday, and we got to meet the other authors that are in there. They all are doctors of something, and they all are running programs and conferences and all sorts of things. And so they're doing one in Biloxi, Missouri, and they're going to do a book signing there. And I told her I would like to come because that's going to be really exciting. I've never been there, and it's going to be really exciting because it's this huge conference. And so it's just something different that I haven't done before. And it helps you to grow. saying yes to doing something that
Yes.
is a little harder, you know, something new you haven't done that you're not sure about. But once you do it, then afterwards you're like, I'm so glad I did that.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you meet other women that are out there just conquering the world.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And sometimes we need that push. And sometimes if we don't know what we're going to encounter and we just end up in it, like the Trans-Siberian to me, you know, that's where the big growth happens, because we would never have done it if we had known exactly what we're putting ourselves into.
Yes. And that's one thing, is growth is painful. You know, you're getting out of your comfort zone. And so it's hard. But once you've done it, you've moved that line of yours out more, a little more, and a little more, and a little more. And pretty soon, you know, you have this huge world that you didn't even know you could have.
Yeah. It's like the boundary shift. And the world has no boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, once you push them out, the world has no boundaries.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, I got in a lot of the groups, the Facebook groups, for interviewing and things. And a teacher got on there and she was looking for authors to do a virtual book signing for second graders. So she didn't mention where it was at the time. And I said, sure, I'll do it. And it was in Paraguay. So I did a book. I read Dragon's Breath to a bunch of little second graders in Paraguay. I would have never have had that opportunity if I had not said yes to it. And they were the cutest little kids, and they were just so enthused by it. And one of them said he was going to come to America so I could read him a book. And I'm like, if you get to America, I will read you a book.
Yes.
You know, and they were so cute. And, you know, they were talking to me, you know, in their language, and she had to keep interpreting it. But it was just so wonderful. And you just have to say yes to just different things, even if you're not sure you can do it, or, you know, you're like, I don't know, but, you know, just, you've got to get out there.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And experience life to the fullest.
Yes. Well, especially like with the traveling that I do, that my books are on. For my birthday, one time I went to New Orleans and we went and saw the plantations, and we went into the bayou, and we rode on a jet boat, and we had to hide under the moss covered trees because it was thunder and lightning. And so we didn't get lightning. And then the guy drove up, and he just drove up on this mound of like grass, and he jumps out and he's got his overalls on, and he starts making this really weird noise, and he's got this fish in his hand. And all of a sudden, these huge, big eyes were coming up out of the water. And so there's all these alligators, and he's just feeding them. They're probably 2-3 feet from him, and he's probably 2 feet from me. Oh, wow. And it was so fascinating that he was doing that. And then he comes over and he opens this ice chest and hands us a baby alligator, and just hands it to us, and we're holding it. And I was petting it. And somebody told me, well, you know, they bite. I didn't even think about them biting when I was doing it, because it was like, oh my gosh, I'm holding a baby alligator. He really liked me. He didn't bite me, but you know, that's in my book. But one time I used to play contests a lot when I was married, and kind of keep me busy. And I won a lot of stuff, actually. So people say you don't win contests, you do. But I won a trip to Hawaii. And so I took my kids, and we went, and I wanted to go swimming with the sharks. So we drove over to the North Shore, and we went 10 miles out into the ocean, and went inside a shark cage. And it was, I went in with the boys, because we went in at first. And my oldest daughter, was standing at the top, and she was feeding the sharks. So she saw them coming up and jumping out of the water and grabbing the meat. And we just saw them swimming around, which was really interesting. I really loved it. Don't know if I'd do it again, because it was quite a while ago, but because she saw them eating the food, she wouldn't get in the shark cage. Yeah. If I had done that first, I might not have gotten into the shark cage. But at the time, it's, you know, so you have to try new things. We went to Kona. I have a friend who lives in Kona. And when I got divorced, that's something I did too. I would fly over there and stay he married someone who grew up in Kona. So I would stay at their house and spend a lot of time there. My son actually got married there. And so we swam with the turtles. I actually wrote 2 books on being over in Kona. So we'd swim with the turtles. And so when the last time we went, I went with my daughter and her family, and we went night swimming with the manta rays. And they were huge, huge.
Wow.
And we just laid, and they had lights down there, and they would come up and they would just curl around you like this. And when they were coming up, you could see all the way down inside their bodies. I mean, it was just, and they would just touch you when they were flipping around. And it was scary and fascinating all at the same time, but I'm really glad I did it.
Yes.
So you just have to try all that new stuff. We have been swimming with dolphins like 3 times. I took my students swimming to SeaWorld. They earned all of their own money, and we went down to SeaWorld and they went swimming with the dolphins, and their parents came, and that was like the best experience they could have had.
Yes, yes. I must admit, I have gone swimming with turtles. I did that at Tenerife, which is off the coast of Africa. Yeah.
Oh, how fun. That's one of the places I want to go, is Africa.
Yeah, well, this is an island off the coast. It's a volcanic island, so it's very different to anything that I'd ever been to before.
Okay. Does it have the big animals on it?
No.
Okay.
No. But the turtles are definitely in the water around it.
Oh, well, yeah. That's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some pictures of the water in Africa, and it just looks beautiful. The ocean water.
Yeah.
So that's definitely.
Yeah, this is quite a long way off the coast. It's actually owned by Spain. So it's a Spanish island, but off the coast of Africa. Yes.
Okay. That's neat. So you've been kind of everywhere. All over the world. You are a world traveler. The Queen should come and travel with you.
Well, I actually went to Tenerife. I actually spent a lot of time there writing my book when I wrote my book.
Okay.
I wrote in Portugal and I wrote in Tenerife. And just spent some time there, just sitting in a resort, just looking out over the ocean and writing. It was beautiful.
So it was your writer's retreat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you do by day?
I work with women.
Okay.
I'm a mentor, and I help them, get their direction and overcome procrastination. I run different courses on and have different programs as well.
Okay.
On getting motivated and on staying on track. We have a Monday morning, it's like a networking come to-do list day where, we do a meditation and we set our week up for the week. And I've also got other programs that I run at other different times as well.
Oh, how neat. How neat. So you're like a life coach.
Yes, I call myself more a mentor than a life coach. So. Okay.
All right. Well, I've been talking to a lot of like coaches and things, and so there's a lot out there that's going on, and that's something also I talk about with the people that have gone through, women that have gone through domestic violence or stalking. There's actually a lot more people that have been stalked than you would think. But it's hard to get past that and understand like the gaslighting and all of that. And so I've been talked a lot about getting support. If you don't get support within your own family or within your own, little environment, there's professional organizations, there's other women that to talk to. Join groups if you've lowered your self-esteem or your self-worth. Join a group that you're passionate about. I mean, I've suggested gardening or, all sorts of things. Whatever it is you're passionate about, go do it. And then you will find people that are also passionate about it. And you will start it kind of gets you going again. you know, and builds up your self-esteem and it gets you going, and you're in a safe environment because you're doing something that you're comfortable with and the other people that you're with are comfortable with. And, you know, so I remember when I first was getting divorced, I was actually very uncomfortable sitting next to men because of what happened. And so that was kind of hard for me to start doing that, but you just have to get out there and start. You have to start somewhere. So,
and I think that's why I like mentoring, because it is like, let's get out there, let's do things, you know, let's make the changes. You know, we can all sit back in the pity pit, but you got to get out of that pity pit at some stage, unless you want to sink to the bottom of it.
Right.
And that's where I like, you know, let's make life happen. Let's make life change. But that was one of the reasons I did travel too. And I spent a year traveling just to find myself, to find what I liked, to know what I wanted, because I didn't know any of that.
Right. So because you're busy, you're visiting a wife or whatever it is you're doing, a mother, you know, you might have a job, you know, you're just busy doing all of that, and you lose track of you as a person. That happens when your kids grow up too, and suddenly you're just like, oh, what am I supposed to do now? Like, who am I? Because you're not the same person you were when you started. Now you've had different experiences, you've done all sorts of things. So who are you now? And sometimes you're a totally different person. You have different interests than when you started. And, you know, when I first graduated from high school, I wasn't going to be a stay-at-home mom. I was adamant against it. I'm not doing that. I'm going to be a businesswoman, you know, and I immediately, within 6 months, I met my husband, we got married, I had a baby, and I stayed home. I did the exact opposite of what I said I was going to do. And I stayed home for the first, you know, 5 or 6 years of their lives. We went to school together. He became a fireman. And I did get a business degree. And then I started working with my mom and started getting into education, and then just kind of went on from there, and it built from there. But it's not a path that I plotted out. You know, you can't plot it out and go, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and not be aware that you're going to have curves and things are going to happen and you're going to go this way. And sometimes I felt like a ball in a pinball machine. You know, like I'd go over here and then that would happen, and then I'd go over here and this would happen. And you just kind of have to go with it and just keep going. And that pinball thing does stop, hopefully at some point, you know, but you can't be rigid and say, this is what I'm doing. And because maybe your plan when you started is not what you're going to end up with. You know, I never thought I would have, I think I just published my 14th or 15th book. I don't even know anymore. And, you know, I've got 70 international awards. Next month, I'm going to be on the New York Times book review page. And I never thought I'd be on the cover of a magazine. I never thought I'd have a Ph.D. Any of these things. So, you know, those were not on my plan anywhere.
Oh, I hear you. I never thought that, you know, I'd be working in the media as such and having a podcast, because that is the media in a way.
Yes.
You know,
talking to people all over the world, like, you know, no, that was not on the list anywhere.
and talking to women like you who are just incredible. I didn't think that I was even capable of that. And I suddenly found that I can talk to all these women, and I can hold my own. And you don't laugh at me for being silly. It's like, wow, I can do this.
Yeah, well, you know why? Because you end up in this little world, and you don't know what everybody else is, what everybody else is doing. And that's the one great thing about the podcast and talking to people all over the world. We all have so much more in common than we think we do.
Yeah, we do.
And so you go out there and, like, you're an inspiration. So anybody who's listening to this and is unsure if they can travel on their own, they could contact you and ask you about it, or listen to your podcast and go, in fact, the romance book that I just finished, that's exactly what she did. She was a realtor, and she went to, I'm going to say she went to Paraguay and went by herself to find herself. And then she, of course, found a man, because it's a romance book. And then she was from Canada. So she went back. But I'm running into that a lot. Women who are just going and doing things like that, just completely on their own. And that's amazing for me to know that people do that. Maybe someday I will be brave enough to do that, but not right now. And it's okay. It's okay to admit, you know what? I like swimming with sharks, but you know what? Traveling by myself like that's not something I'm quite comfortable with.
Do it. Yeah,
right?
You don't want to do it.
I mean, maybe someday, but not right now. But maybe when I retire and I want to go somewhere and I don't have anybody to go with me. But, we're also kind of afraid to admit that we have, fears and insecurities and we're unsure of some things. And you know what? We all have that also. And it's okay to admit it. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to talk about, which used to be really taboo, to talk about things that happened to you. You're the silent victim. Don't talk about it. When this thing happened to me with this lady and all of the things that she did to me, that is one thing that they do is they want you to stay silent and not talk about it because, obviously they're not going to get caught if you don't talk about it, but they make you feel like either, you're making it up or it didn't happen or, and it did. And that's the gaslighting. And that's what I talk about. You really have to talk about that. I would do that at work. Things would happen and I would talk to the people at work and I'm like, did that just happen? And they go, yes. And I'm like, okay, because they start making you question yourself.
Yeah.
And so, you got to go out there and talk to people and join any kind of group that will support you.
Yes.
And sometimes it's not your family.
Oh, very true. Very true. Yeah.
So
I don't consider that I have great family. I nobody would even know that I had a sister, and I've never had a relationship with her in my entire life.
Oh,
A lot of I don't know any difference, so it's fine.
okay.
I've never lost anything, so I don't miss it. But a lot of my cousins and all of that, they were a little bit older than me, so I don't feel it. I have great family, and my mother would be 99 if she was alive now. Dad would be 102. So all my
gosh.
uncles have all well and truly passed, with the exception of one who's well in her 90s.
So she's probably not going to go to Bali with you.
No.
Well,
So
but
you're right. You need to find your tribe that you can bring around you and surround yourself with, so to support you.
Right.
That's what we all need. We all need our tribe, whether that be our family or whether that be our friends and like-minded people.
Right.
Very important to have.
It's hard sometimes to admit that it's not your family. I have a very supportive family. My children are very supportive. My mom is, my dad was, but not everybody's that lucky. Like, I don't know how I would have really survived what happened to me if I didn't have very supportive friends and colleagues at work and a family. And I can't imagine someone who doesn't really have that. But you really do have to, you have to find the strength somewhere so you can get out of the situation.
Yes.
And that's the main thing, getting out of it, because it isn't normal for people to hurt you.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get in a situation and it happens so much that it becomes normalized for you. Well, this is just the way it is. This is just the way they act. No, it's not okay. Hurting people is not purposely hurting people is not okay.
And unfortunately, narcissistic people often do isolate you.
Yes. So they can hurt you. Yes.
Yeah.
And they get your family to turn against you. And yeah. And they do things and then they'll tell you, well, I was just kidding. Well, you're taking it wrong. No, no, you're doing this, and so sometimes it's hard, but you just have to not continue to be their victim, but it's hard.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard.
Yeah.
You could just go to Bali and sit on the beach and write about your life. Write a best-selling book.
Yeah.
But a lot of women and there's men also that are in bad situations, but they don't know they can do that.
Yes.
They don't know they can do that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why you're an inspiration. I mean, getting a PhD after 30 years of marriage, I find that just absolutely, totally inspiring.
It was by accident, but I was like, well, sure, why not?
Yes.
Took me 7 years. Took me 7 years, but it kept me structured. It kept my mind on other things besides what was happening. So did my books. The first summer that I think I had 2 books out at that point. It was easier then than it is now. I just called a bunch of libraries, and I spent the whole summer going to book readings during the summer reading programs all over Southern California. I took my grandma with me some of the time, and she was there. And it kept me really busy during that time period when it was really hard for me, and he was really trying to undo my life, the life that we had built. And so I had to build my own life separate from him, and become a person separate from what he was doing. And I'm glad that I did it. I never expected to be doing the things that I'm doing now. Every time I think, okay, I'm going to slow down. I'm not going to do so much. And then something else comes up, some opportunity comes up, and I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Like, I have 2 more days of summer school, and then I have a month off. And last summer, I was gone the whole month I had off. I was gone. So when school started again, I was exhausted. I was like, oh, I can't do this. So this summer I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do some trips. And I've already booked the whole month. And it's, hey, well, I got things I want to do.
Yes.
Things came up, and I'm like, okay, we're going to go do that. I'll go do that. I have a couple of book signings, and I'm going to spend some time with my grandchildren, which is, of course, is always wonderful. But I don't spend a lot of time just sitting around and feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. And you are truly an inspirational.
Well, I hope so.
You really are.
I hope so. And anybody can contact me if they have, any questions just about life, or, what to do. If sometimes you just don't know what to do.
Yes.
And someone to kind of tell you like where to start. Like, I don't even know where to start. And someone can help you with that. Someone wants to start writing, children's books or anthologies, articles for newspapers. Everybody has some gift they need to give to the world.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people, sometimes they come into the writing, the authorship. I'm going to be rich. No, if you're going into it to be rich, you're going into it for the wrong reason.
Wrong reason.
Wrong reason, because you're probably not going to get rich. But if you're impacting someone's life in a positive way, even if it's only one person, someone needs to hear your story. Someone needs to listen to you. And if you've done that, then your purpose has been met. And then everything else is just gravy for that, But don't start with little goals, start with little goals. Don't start with a huge goal that you can't meet, because you'll become discouraged, and you'll just, you'll either stay in the situation you're in, or you won't try new things. And you've got to, and remember, everybody makes mistakes, and everybody fumbles, and, goes, I don't know.
Yeah, we're all human.
Right. We are all human, and none of us are perfect, and we all make mistakes, and you just got to get out there. There's lots of really neat people in the world.
There is. Yeah, there certainly is. Certainly is. Thank you for talking to our listeners today, Dawn. It's been absolutely wonderful speaking to you. And I know you will have inspired people. Now, how do people get in touch with you?
We're building a website. It's queenvernita.com. Hopefully it'll be up in the next month or so. I have a Facebook, Dawn Menge 1. And if you go on my Facebook, you'll see for each of my children's books, I have an album, and it has the actual pictures of our trips and like swimming with the sharks and things. And the illustrations come from those pictures. And they're pre-K to 6th and 7th grade. I have an Instagram, Dawn Menge, and a Twitter, Queen Vernita. My publisher is Rushmore Press, and I have a couple of pages on there. You can look me up. My books are just about anywhere on the internet. I found it today in Bahrain, and I couldn't understand any of the language, but they're selling my book there. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I would never have thought of that. The other day I got a Google alert. My books were in Denmark, you know, and so they've been bought in India and Africa. And
Wow.
so, you know, yeah, I actually had a friend that she came from Africa. So her family they were teachers, and she took some of my books down there, and I got videos and pictures of these children in different parts of Africa reading my books to their classmates. And that was never on my list anywhere. And that is some of the most fascinating things that I have done with my books.
That's unbelievable. That's fantastic.
So, I mean, if that's all that there ever was, I would have been fine. There's more, but, you know, I would have been fine with that, because children on the other side of the world are reading my books in their classrooms or checking them out of the library. And how much better could you get than that?
Yeah.
And they're reading about my life and my family, you know, so I hope that I have inspired even just one person to get out there and try their dream.
Oh, I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad. Here, can we take a picture? Since it's just a podcast. Oh, wait, don't want. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being on here, and thank you for inspiring all of our listeners. You're amazing.
I hope I have. Bye.
Bye. Wow, what an amazing lady. What an amazing conversation that we had. I think my biggest takeaway from all of that was just do it. You know, just get up, do it, take life on, and just go for it. That was my takeaway. So let me know what your takeaway is. Please put it in the comments and tell me what you got from that. But I really did get, you know, just go and do it. You know, say yes. And she said that, say yes to everything. So, you know, once you say yes, honestly, things do just keep coming towards you. So say yes, 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 I can do that. Yes, yes, I can do that. So thank you for listening today. I'm sure that you loved it just as much as I did. And a special, you know, thanks to Dr. Dawn for, you know, being so honest and vulnerable and really giving, you know, telling us how her life has changed, you know, and getting a PhD in her 50s. Wow, what a great effort. So thank you, Dr. Dawn. Really appreciate it. Now, each Friday we release a new episode. So please subscribe so you can keep coming back, and you know that, you know, we've got a new episode out. Share it with your friends. Let other people that you think might be interested in this, please share it so we can get the word out there, and we can, you know, the more we get the word out there, the more that Google will share it with our friends as well. So that would be really good if you could do that, and leave us a review. You know, if you can leave us a review, that also gets us up the listing. So it would be really good as well. So we'd love to hear from you. So please, you know, tell us, you know, what you think. And yeah, you might also know someone who might be great for us to talk to, or you might be really good for us to talk to as well. So if you know someone who's got an inspiring story, you know, who's lived an incredible life, done some incredible stuff, or just got through adversity, please, you know, pass their details on to us. Let us know. You know, speak to them and say, hey, listen, you know, maybe you could speak with Love, Light and Inspiration, and we can, you know, we can go from there, because the more special stories we share, you know, the better it is for all of us to learn from each other. You know, that's the thing about this life. If we can learn from each other, we don't have to go through the crap that we go through because we've learnt the lesson from someone else. And how wonderful is that? So, yeah, pass on any details. So I'm Lorraine Roberts. I'm your productivity strategist. So if you want to learn how to say yes to something and go for it, then I'm the person. If you want to reinvent your life and change it so you can become that inspiring person, get in touch. Get in touch with me. You can find me in our group. It's the Love, Light and Inspiration community group. Get in touch with me through there, through my own Facebook page. I'm also on Instagram. Not great at checking that one, but I'm also on Instagram. And there's also the website, www.lovelightandinspire.com. So thank you also to Nissa. I know she does all the editing and all the post-production work. She puts everything together for us. So thank you, Nissa. Really great. Thank you for being on board and being a part of our community as well. And also anything that we spoke about today, if you need help, please go and see someone. What our conversation was about, was about us, not about you. So if you need help, you need assistance, please go and consult with a professional and get some help. And have a wonderful day. Be the inspiration that you've seen here. That would be wonderful. Thank you.